once again, thank you all for joining us. This is Nuance. I am Mike Scala, and we will be speaking about the special election process in New York in the wake of former Congress member, George Santos being booted from the House. So in the meantime, I would like to introduce our co-host, as always, Jay Carter, also known as Timid, the hip-hop artist in the chair of BLM Tokyo. What's going on, Jay?
Just getting up in the morning. You know what it is over here. All good.
It's all good in Japan?
All good, all good. I'm actually, for some reason, extra hungry this morning.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Hopefully you're hungry for some good dialogue.
Hungry for some
Well,
something.
all right. We are joined as well by Sheba Abraham from the League of Women Voters. Welcome back, Sheba.
Thank you. It's been a very busy month for me here in Dutchess County with events going on and things that are happening with the league. So keeping up has been quite interesting and kind of hectic.
Okay. And we hear that the mayor-elect may be joining us at some point.
Yes, I did reach out to her. She agreed to come on the show. She wanted to know which Tuesday. I asked her if she can join us next Tuesday, and I did give her the information that you sent me, 10 to 15 minutes, and she could talk about Poughkeepsie if she liked. So I'm waiting for her to get back to me.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. If she wants to stay on for the whole show and talk about the other topics as well, she's more than welcome. But whatever she wants to do, we will certainly be able to accommodate that. So we look forward to
her inauguration ceremony will be January 2nd.
Okay.
So it's going to be quite a celebration.
Right. An historic moment, right? The first Black woman mayor of Poughkeepsie.
Yes.
Okay. So we are joined once again by Andrey Bystrov, a political consultant whose appearance is fitting this week because of the political topics we're going to be getting into. What's going on with you, Andrey?
Hey, how are you, folks? Good to see everybody. You guys might see my dog periodically or potentially hear her snoring. She's right here as well. Franny would definitely say hi if, she wasn't very tired from her very, very busy day.
That dog's life.
Dog's life, that's right.
So check this out. It was my birthday this past week, and I went to Miller Ridge Inn as part of the celebration. I picked up this mug. It reminded me of the podcast. I don't know if you guys can read that. It says, "Hello, Tuesday. May I ask you a question? Why are you back so quickly? Don't you have a hobby?" It always seems to be Tuesday. But of course, we look forward to these discussions every week. So why don't we get into them? We wanted to talk about the special election process in New York. Now, this is fitting, of course, because we know that George Santos was expelled from Congress and there's a vacancy in his seat. Jay is happy, as are a lot of people. But the question becomes, how do you fill the remainder of someone's term when there's a vacancy? And the election law will prescribe that, but it's actually different depending on the kind of seat that it is. So if it's a New York City municipal seat, like a city council seat, they hold a nonpartisan special election where all the candidates can jump in the pool. They run as their own party line, whatever party name they make up, but it's not Democrat versus Republican one-on-one. You could have 8, 10 people in the same seat, nonpartisan, right? It's different when you talk about a federal seat and a state seat in New York. What happens is it's a special election. However, you have a one-on-one, a Democrat versus a Republican, but there is no primary, right? These candidates are chosen by the parties directly. And I think a lot of people are unaware of that, but that's what you're going to see here in New York to replace Mr. Santos. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party are internally choosing their candidates. We thought we would know by now whom the Democrats were going to select. I think they said it was going to be today originally. Now they're saying Thursday, so we have to keep an eye on that.
But I mean, to be fair, we all know it's going to be Tom Suozzi.
Right. Well, that is the anticipation, but why hasn't that been announced yet? I saw Anna Kaplan
because
a tweet telling everyone to call Jay Jacobs and say it should be her. So are they doing that just to
but-
make it look like they're giving that thought some consideration?
Well, so here's the deal. So Jay, I mean, it's not like, I don't know if it's like insider baseball that people aren't supposed to be aware of this, but Jay Jacobs is very close with Tom Suozzi. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things. I'm assuming the holdout is that there are a lot of people who don't like Tom Suozzi. You know, one of them may be in this room, but I haven't obviously spoken to Jay Jacobs. You know, they're trying to convince him of other candidates, I'm sure. You know, there are plenty of voices in the room. There's Anna Kaplan, obviously John Kamen. I don't know if Steve Stern is districted out now, but there's plenty of folks that are great for the seat. And also, by the way, who didn't come in 53-47 with George Santos in 2020.
You're talking about Zimmerman.
I'm talking in 2020, sir.
In 2020. Okay.
That was Thomas Suozzi.
Thomas Suozzi won, though, but you're saying...
Yeah, but he came very, very close.
Yeah. I got you. So there might be a discussion going on about what? Should we not pick Suozzi? Or
I mean, look, the guy obviously wants to be governor, will never actually become governor. And
wants to be president. He would like to be governor as a stepping stone for president. Sir.
Blah, 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 blah. He first wants to be governor, right? But at the same time, if he's never going to be governor, he's never going to be president. And like, you know what I mean? Like if he wants to be an astronaut too, like we don't even need to talk about that. The point being is that he's not going to be governor. And like, look, voters more or less in that district know that it's, you know what I mean, that he has differing kind of thoughts on the matter, right? Like in terms of different ambitions. Does he really want to be congressman of New York 3?
That is right. That is a fair
also here's my additional question, right?
Hold on a second, though. Before we get to your additional question, I want to talk on something that you just said a while ago. Now, you said another candidate might have been districted out. That is possible. However, I do want to keep everyone informed of the fact that under the Constitution, the federal Constitution, you only need to be a resident of your state to run for Congress. And we've seen this before. And now it might not be the best look politically, right? But we've seen it before when Anthony Weiner left Congress and there was a special election to replace him. Whom did the Democrats nominate? They nominated Weprin, right? Who was not a resident of that district. And that did become a political controversial point, right? People were trying to use that against him, but legally there would be nothing stopping them from choosing someone out of that district.
Sure, but I mean, you know what I mean? A lot of times it's just the common practice, the kind of courtesy of not doing that. And also just, you know, we never want to face the question of like, hey, how are you going to represent these people if you don't live amongst them? Like, what are you talking about? That does not make sense for any
it's often not a good
constituency for any district.
Right. But we've seen them make that mistake before.
But
something else I wanted to bring up, though, also is we've been talking about Jacobs, right? Nassau County. But
wait, before we get to Jacobs, I have a quick question for you as an election attorney relating to something you just said, which was actually going to be my point. We have new maps in terms of the congressional districts. It cut out certain points of Suffolk County for New York 3 and added Westchester County, right? It went across the river versus like just the connection between Nassau and Suffolk. And you know, obviously a little tiny part of Queens. My question is, those maps are not going to be maintained going into the next general election cycle. We're going to have new maps. So we're going to have the old maps for this special, but we're going to have new maps for the actual next primary cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, is it me or does this process seem crazy and stupid and like irresponsibly just like inefficient?
Well,
or is it just me? Like,
are they using the old maps because that's when the original election was?
Pardon?
Are they using the old maps because that's when the original election was?
No, they're using the old maps because the maps, so they changed in 2022. Before this coming cycle, they were needed to be changed again. The problem is that they haven't done it yet. They probably will do it towards the end of February, but that's going to be after this special election will have already taken place, right? So they have to use the maps that George Santos got elected by, which includes a portion of Westchester, which, by the way, in my opinion, is probably going to be cut back out. So I don't think it really particularly pertains to Thomas Swazi. I think he's going to be in the district regardless. But my point being is, you might have different considerations in terms of candidacies depending on what the final outcome of the actual district maps are going to be. And right now, it's still very much precarious and in flux, which makes for a really dumb representation.
But that leads to the question that I was going to raise about, we mentioned Jacobs because he is the head of Nassau County, right? As far as Democrats go. But this district doesn't only touch Nassau County.
He's not just the head of Nassau County. Isn't he the head of the entire New York State congressional delegation? Like he's like responsible for New York.
He's not a congressman. I believe he's
he's not. No, he's not a congressman. No. But I just meant that in terms of like the DNC and the SCC.
Yeah, but isn't that more for fundraising? I mean, I don't know if that.
No, for fundraising for sure, but you know what I mean, like as like one of in a leadership position. Before he was just Nassau County. Now I think he's.
I know, I understand.
State,
right. But I think though that the fact that this district touches other counties means that other party leaders get.
No, I'm sure. Look, I'm sure that folks will get involved. Though I am fairly certain that like somebody like Meeks is probably going to stay out of it because of just how small the apportionment of Queens is. I don't
know. Maybe Meeks might be Swazi as well. I know Swazi positioned himself as the Queens candidate, even though he's not from Queens, right? He did that when he ran officially.
I'll say this. You know what I mean?
Hold on 1 second.
I'm sorry. Yes.
I have a question. What is the maps going to look like after this special election?
I'm sorry. What was the question?
What are the maps going to look like?
We don't know.
After
we have no idea. I'm assuming that we won't know for quite a while. I assume the maps are going to come out sometime in late February. We're going to petition based on those maps, and that at some point, either I'm assuming some Republican is going to get upset somewhere that they're not, outlined exactly how it is, and it's still going to go back to court at some point. So we won't know. It's been a giant quagmire for a while, but we're not the only state that's kind of dealing with it as well.
Right. These maps have to
be appear a lot.
As a result.
No, but I mean, we're not the only state that's been dealing in like this flux of districts.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because of the court challenge, right? Because they have every 10 years you redraw the maps as a result of the census to reflect population changes. But we know that in New York, and as Andrey mentioned, even elsewhere, there have been challenges to the constitutionality of the way that these maps have been drawn. Of course, gerrymandering remains a big concern and so forth.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is a mess, right? It is a mess.
It is a huge mess because here, I think our towns were together. Newburgh, Beacon, and Poughkeepsie were together since the beginning of time. Now, from what I'm understanding, Beacon will be more part of Putnam County than Dutchess. I think, wow. So that means we will have we might lose our congressman, our current congressman, and it's to happen next year, 2024 in January or February, from what I understand. And the congressman we have now, we won't have him once this redistricting is completed. So it's kind of like you're breaking up towns. It happens so much. We don't know what town. I don't know what town I live in from one year to the next, or who my congressman might be.
Right. I mean, those are two different issues, though, right? Are you saying that the actual town is moving to a different county, or are you just talking about the congressional maps?
I'm talking about the congressional maps.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, the congressional maps, because when they did that, at one time we had I can't think of his name now. He lost to Congressman Sean Maloney, Sean Maloney. I think that was his name, Congressman Maloney.
Yeah, Sean Patrick Maloney.
Maloney, yes. He was our congressman, but when the congressional maps, when they started redistricting, we lost him. He moved to the congressional district 17.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to run there.
Yeah, and then you have sometimes running each other.
And although we had, we had say in what would happen, it still went the way, I guess, however they decided it would go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's gonna keep changing, right? So it's gonna change
Yeah.
again next year, and it's just this is
Hmm.
all very, very crazy.
Well, we do want stable maps that will last us until the next census, right? We don't want to have to keep going through this every time. It seems like for the past few years, it's been a constant state of maps changing, being challenged, redrawn, back to court, right? And no one knows what districts are going to look like, what districts are going to be, who's going to represent them, who's going to even be able to run, if you're going to live in the district that you're planning on running in. I mean, everything is just up in the air.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
it's
when you have
ridiculous.
good, yeah, when you have good, because one of the senators we met in his office, he said we would still have him, and one of the assembly assemblyman, we met at his office, and he said we will still have him.
Mhm.
However, we don't know what it's going to do to the rest of the town.
Yeah.
You see, we don't know if there's going to be a north, south. It's just all over the place. It seems like.
Right. Well, so here is the thing. We know that there's going to be a special election soon, right? The governor has to set a date. What are we hearing? February?
Yeah,
That's
it's supposed to be in February because
February.
yeah, they have a 10 days to name their candidates and then name the day of the special election, and then they also have them 40 days after that, right?
Right. And so that special election is just to fill out the remainder of the Santos term. He was elected in 2022. And so the term would last from January of 2023 this year until
Served
December
less than a year.
4. Yeah, 11 months, right?
I would like to remind folks that
I just want to just complete this point. So December of 24 is when the term ends. January 1st, 25 is when the new term begins. And so there's going to be a regular election, a regularly scheduled election in November of 24. And of course, a primary also in 24. And so this special election is temporary. Again, the parties choose their candidates, then they go one-on-one. But you might see a wide open primary, maybe even on both sides next year, right? So this is very temporary, as we said. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Andre, you gonna make a point?
Yes. No. I just remembered the fact that if you guys remember that the entire joke originally, maybe a year ago, that, you know, before Santos took office or sometime immediately afterwards, when the lies started coming out, I mentioned the fact that the office that he moved into was vacant since the last congressman from New York State was eventually convicted of tax fraud and had to step down. So that office is 100% cursed for anybody from the New York State delegation. And so, and, you know, it seems specifically for the Republicans. So everybody watch out.
So you should make sure everyone knows the address of that, and they stay away from that office.
I'm assuming it's going to be locked for a little while now. But so what I do find kind of interesting, and I would love to hear everybody's opinions about this, is so I watched the debate in Congress prior to the vote. The day prior to the vote, I watched the 55 some odd minutes that different sides were arguing. And obviously there are a lot of fun things, right? You know what I mean? The congressman that talked about the fact that Santos specifically stole money from his mother and him and called him a crook. And then Santos came out and said, hey, but you're a wife beater. And so just to showcase, you know, what kind of gems we have in the modern Republican Party. But what I did find interesting is that there was a point, and I think potentially a valid point made by maybe one of the worst people in all of Congress. And that is the representative from Florida, Matt Gaetz, who has, you know, outside of a penchant for teenage girls and stuff, does potentially some decent stuff against dark money with AOC, which is actually a fascinating bill. The fact that he co-sponsors a bill with AOC against dark money. But anyways, so he made an interesting point that, you know, obviously you're setting a precedent by kicking somebody out of Congress who has not been actually convicted of a crime. He's facing 23 felonies. He will likely be convicted, but at the same time, he currently has not been. Right. So is that a precedent you want to set? And then he also made the comparison to Jamal Bowman, which he should not have. That is a very incorrect point in terms of the fire alarm and the misdemeanor or whatever. But no, but he did make a very valid point about Senator Bob Menendez. Now, not necessarily about the Senate kicking him out, because he is facing quite a few felonies, again, for a second corruption charge that he just beat one. This time, he's facing one from Department of Justice saying that he's supposed to have been registered as a foreign agent for Egypt for over 4 years due to the amount of work he's done for the Egyptian government. God damn. He is, look, even though he's no longer, I believe, the head of the Foreign Intelligence Committee, or rather, I'm sorry, the Foreign Affairs Committee, he stepped down as the Democratic chair, if I'm not mistaken, but at the same time, he's still receiving foreign intelligence briefings. I mean, look, I don't know. I think he should be stripped of his committees. And until this type of investigation, like, we should also be penalizing some folks that are bad actors from our own side.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think that would just be fair. It would be a good thing that we get rid of some of the, you know, folks that are doing some very, very outwardly shady stuff.
There is a valid point, though, that we all have due process and we should be careful before punishing someone who hasn't been convicted. With that said, we still do have ethics committees, right, in the House and in the Senate, and they are certainly willing and able to find wrongdoing. It might not even rise to the level of a criminal offense, but it still could be worthy of punishment or perhaps expulsion from Congress, right? I think that process exists separate from the criminal one.
Right. And I think in Menendez's case, I think it's warranted maybe to remove him from his committees. He shouldn't be continuously receiving updates on stuff that he was removed from, especially if there's a potential that he was acting as a foreign agent for Egypt. So, yeah, I think, you know, pull him off of those committees and then
let the process unfold. Yeah, that's fine.
Right. And which is kind of what they did with Santos in a way.
Well, here's the thing, though. But here's the thing. Look, Jersey has a fairly progressive, Democratic governor right now. He would appoint somebody fairly decent to that seat. If I'm, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, look.
Wasn't his wife trying to run?
Who?
The governor's wife.
Governor's wife? I don't know. That would be a very bad, mix of interests right there. But no. I had a friend of mine who's in the assembly, I think, who we know, making the suggestion that Phil Murphy might want to appoint himself, which I also think would be a bad move. Just because, again, he's term limited. He's not, he can't run again. So
someone fact check me on this. Look this up. I believe, because I don't follow New Jersey politics too closely, but I believe I heard that the governor's wife was going to run for Senate against Menendez.
I mean, look, if she does, let me know when she's starting her, political action committee and stuff, and I'll send, $27.
Yeah, it looks like there was a news article November 1st from New York Times saying that she was preparing to run for Menendez's seat.
Right. So if Menendez were to be removed, would the governor appoint his own wife, or would he be persuaded not to due to
that would be interesting. That would be a conflict.
Yeah.
That would be a conflict of interest. So I don't know. I do know that we didn't take the time or proper enough time to enjoy and savor the flavor and the aroma of Santos being kicked out. We didn't take any time to appreciate that.
Some of us have been paying attention to this for quite a while. First of all,
also, let me ask you,
there's an HBO film. There's an HBO film already in production, by the way. An HBO film already in production. And if you miss Santos so much, he is on Cameo for $200.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, Senator, the thing that I was going to tell you guys is that 7 hours ago, it turns out that John Fetterman paid George Santos $200 to go on Cameo and support Bob Menendez in his upcoming felony trials.
Right.
There we are now in the topsy-turvy world.
Did he do it? Or
yes, Fetterman enlisted Santos.
Did Santos do it, though? Or did Santos do it?
Yes.
He did it.
Santos is ready to take down everybody. what was it? After
Yeah,
he got
yeah.
kicked out?
He said that Militakis is doing what's it called, insider trading.
He
That's
named like 3 or 4 people
That's
afterwards.
but he's going specifically against after the Republican New York delegation, baby.
Let me
Let's
ask you,
go.
so
Let's go.
Why?
Let's
Let's
go.
go.
we had speculated on here that the Republicans would not turn against him because they wanted that seat. What changed?
Well, I mean, look, the leadership still voted to keep him in.
The speaker.
No, well, not just the speaker, but literally everybody at the top of the leadership voted to keep him on, right?
But
So
they had enough
it was the New York delegation and a couple of the outsiders, by the way, who probably gave him money or were on a list where he like faked their names and made alleged contributions to his campaign. Don't
Right.
forget, like this was a Ponzi scheme. This was a scheme. This was like I was never gonna be in Congress. I just wanted to like fleece some donors here, guys. Like he
Right.
happened to get into the seat. That's preposterous. Like he
Well,
went to stop the steal rally in a stolen scarf. Like this is the guy. Come on, like let's.
Do you
Well,
think
the
he said
people
to himself that all
the people-
politicians are liars, and so I can just say whatever I want? Like they don't tell the truth anyway.
But it worked for him. That's that's
Rarely.
what people should really be looking at, is like it worked.
So I mean, look, the problem that I see him facing is that like him stepping down as congressman could have been part of a plea deal that he could have made with the DOJ and stuff.
Wait,
But
did he step
now
down or
it's-
did he get kicked out?
Yeah, now like that's off the table. He doesn't have a lot of room to like negotiate in the next year and a half. I'm assuming he's going to be in a jail cell. So you know what I mean?
I'm
Like
fine
he's
with
got to do his reality show really quick. He's got to move quickly. He's got to do whatever is gonna happen, make his money, and then just like
I'm fine with that.
pay the lawyers, right? Hey Mike,
So,
here's a poll. Would you represent George Santos in his upcoming felonies with the Department of Justice?
No. James in the chat says, when someone says the worst person in Congress, I never know if they're talking about Marge, Green, Lauren Boebert, or Matt Gaetz.
There's so many.
Yeah, no, there's a lot. Did y'all mention Jim Jordan, right?
List
Okay.
goes on and
No,
on.
he didn't. He didn't.
He didn't,
Yeah.
he didn't mention. No.
Don't
Didn't want to mention quickly who was that Santos did call out on his way out. He called out was Maliotakis for stock trading, questionable stock trading. Called out Mike Lawler for campaign finance violations. LaLoda for no-show tax pay funded job while going to school. And he says he's filing all of these things. I mean, he also questioned Menendez as well. So yeah. So he's out for blood, and I think he should get it. Bring everybody down. Have a special election for half of Congress.
Right. Well, speaking of special elections, we wanted to make that the poll of the week because I think it is controversial, or at least would be controversial if more people knew about it, about how the process works, right? So we want to know, should there be a reform to this? Should we continue to do it this way? Should we do it like it's done in New York City, where there's a nonpartisan special election? Should the seat be held open until the next regular election? Should the governor or someone else choose someone and just put them in there without an election? I mean, how should this be done? But let's see, should it be done this way? Is this the best way to do it? So the poll question of the week is, do you believe party leaders, as opposed to voters, should continue to nominate candidates for special elections? Of course, if you have a different suggestion, let us know that as well.
I think
that elections are too costly, right? That's always a consideration. Right. We're always having election year after year. Why we do this all the time? So that's something to think about. If the parties did not choose these candidates, you might have primaries, which would just be another election, 2 other elections, right? Democrats and Republicans. So should we be spending this much money on elections year after year?
Cage match. For anyone who wants the seat, they can just all go in and cage match. Whoever comes out, wins. I think we could probably rule out.
Don't do that. Tom Suozzi would win that, man.
I think we can
Every
rule
time.
out leaving the seat open. We should rule that out for leaving it open until the next election, because then that means the people in that district don't have representation, right? So I think that's one that we could probably easily eliminate as a choice.
Yeah, look, I mean, though, to be fair, having a vacant seat is better than having George Santos as your congressman. Just, you know, for the folks in New York 3, I'm sure this period is like a time of relief. I'm not necessarily certain that they're really looking forward to 2 back-to-back elections.
Right.
Don't forget, it's if it used to be the wealthiest. I'm not sure if it's still, but it probably is the wealthiest district in the country. And if they put a lot of money into this race, especially if it's such, you know, a close seat. So that means that all of these voters now are going to just be inundated with every possible, like, you know, election message, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's going to be crazy.
You would also have, but I'm not endorsing this method necessarily, but it is something to consider. Sometimes when there's a vacancy in a seat, the legislative body, appoints staffers, sometimes keeps the same staffers on or puts new people in to continue doing the business of the district, even without a member in that seat, right? We've seen that in the city council. When someone left the city council, you would call their office and someone would just answer district, whatever, and it wouldn't be a member anymore, but their staff would still be in there to provide constituent services.
Well, was there anyone that liked George Santos? Were there any people that really liked him that, although this was happening, they were still for him?
There are Republicans who want to vote Republican. I don't know if anyone liked him in particular.
Right. But it's probably they were more trying to preserve the seat for their party.
I mean, like late night comics probably love them, you know, so.
Yeah. So I don't know. The special election pitting a Democrat and Republican, obviously there are pros and cons there. One of the drawbacks you might want to mention is the fact that it only pits Democrats versus Republicans. I mean, it's a one-on-one. If you're a third party candidate, then what do you do? Oh, you just shut out of the process?
Hold on. Like, listen, you know, Mike, you and I both know, as like in our years of working in electoral politics and stuff, that third party candidates have always gotten the shaft when it comes to these elections. So like running as a third party candidate for Congress, holy shit, is that difficult?
Oh, sure.
You have more petitions. Oh my goodness, man.
Should the process though have this Democrat versus Republican dichotomy?
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, a third party candidate can still run. You know what I mean? Petitions still have to be gathered.
You can petition for a special election? I don't think so.
I think you still can. I think you can't be, you know, precluded from running for a seat.
I don't think that that's true.
And there's got to be a mechanism. If there isn't, somebody, you know what I mean, start making a case for it right now and stuff, man. That's a ready-made case in New York State.
Yeah, I think that's just how the law is set up, because even the Board of Elections, I mean, obviously, if you read the election law, it doesn't say Democrats or Republicans, but it'll talk about the major parties, right? Maybe
although theoretically, right, then why can't some of the third parties nominate the ones that we still have existing in New York State? Can they still do some shit?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think so. We have to look into that. My understanding, unless this has been oversimplified by media all these years, but my understanding for these special elections is Democrat versus Republican, one-on-one.
Yeah, I mean, that seems wrong. Doesn't mean, I mean, that seems wrong. Doesn't mean that it's not true.
Right.
Right. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
And even look, if you look at the Board of Elections, right? There are no working families appointees. There are no conservative party appointees, right? They're Democrats and Republicans. That's just how our election system is set up.
Would that be fair to exclude others in that though?
Well, no, but I believe it happens.
Well, speaking of third parties, what are people's thoughts on the 2024 presidential election?
Speaking of third parties, do you think that?
Well, I'm just trying to lead into it because, you know, in any way I possibly can, you know what I mean? You got Jill Stein is back in, Cornel West is in. We are going to have the potentiality of that like weird center Andrew Yang, I don't know, weird outgrowth and stuff of them like having like that weird Senator party, the ones that have been trying to recruit Joe Manchin and Mitt Romney to run for a while.
So is this the
and
lead in into
honestly-
the debate between Santos and
Newsom.
Newsom? Is this the lead in into that?
No, I mean, I actually do not care about that debate at all. I was trying to change topics entirely because DeSantis and Gavin Newsom will never be president of this country ever.
That's what Newsom said.
Ever. No. He's saying that they won't become president now. Gavin Newsom definitely thinks he's going to become president. The problem is Gavin is not going to become president. Ron is not going to become president, which is not a problem for anybody who has, followed the pathway of Ron DeSantis into the governor's office of Florida.
Right. Well, I hope that's true. I definitely hope that's true. DeSantis would be very, very troublesome.
Dude, he is the most awkward person of all time. He has never learned how to smile. Like half of his team is left. He has lost the most amount of money that I think any primary candidate in the Republican Party in terms of like his actual percentage outcome in polls relating to the money spent. Like, look, smart money. And look, I said this to Mike before the show and stuff, when we were on the phone. So look, I am hoping beyond hope that the United States eventually shakes this Trump fever out of themselves, because this is just untenable, because this is, this is just a delusional madman that wants to upend democracy in this country. Having said that, I think that Joe Biden is also one of the weakest nominees the Democratic Party has put forth in a very long time. And I think that Donald Trump is probably, while under indictment or convicted, is the only candidate that he can probably beat. And what I told Mike was that I think Nikki Haley would completely spank him in an electoral college, and we would have basically like a different version of a George W. Bush administration. Now, somebody prove me wrong. I'm scared shitless for next year. If somebody can give me like some credible hope that this all makes sense to you.
Do you think that Nikki Haley has a realistic chance of winning the nomination?
I think that if Trump gets convicted, yes, she does. I think that now that she's got the Coke money, she's got. She's got the Murdoch apparatus behind her, and she's got Coke money, right? So she has a viable chance, just both on money, and the problem is 43%, right, of the nation. About 40% of the nation just supports Trump, and about 80% of the Republicans, 70% maybe, of the Republican Party support Trump against anybody for any reason.
I think it's about a third.
Also,
well, I think in terms of the people who are sworn to Trump, who will never leave him, I think it's about a third of the Republicans. So that does give Haley room.
No. It's not a third. It's more than that.
Who would never leave, loyalists to Trump.
Oh, who would never leave?
Yeah.
It's probably close to 40%. It's a very slim margin.
Yeah, so in theory, there is room there if they consolidate the anti-Trump. I just don't see it happening in time. It's December already. The primaries are going to start. The caucuses.
So look. She comes, like I said, man. She comes in second in Iowa. She comes second in Iowa and stuff. She comes second in Iowa. DeSantis drops out. All of the DeSantis money goes for her and stuff. She splits the DeSantis no Trumpers and then the pro Trumpers who wish DeSantis was Trump. And then Trump takes those. Look, it gets a little bit more evened out. She's got a shot somewhere down the line. All I'm saying is this. There is a universe, however unlikely, where Nikki Haley becomes the Republican nominee. In which case, if Joe Biden is the head of our ticket, we lose the White House. And I'm saying this right now, it is a guarantee. I do not see a pathway for us to win, particularly if the Israeli-Gaza war continues, because he depending on what he does, he either loses Michigan or he loses Florida.
He loses Florida, but Andre, he didn't win Florida last time.
He's going to lose regardless. He's going to lose the kids regardless.
Florida last time.
Huh?
He didn't win Florida last time.
But my point being, he loses the kids now regardless and stuff. He can't afford to lose Michigan. He can't afford to lose Georgia. He can't. Look, man, there are states he cannot afford to lose, and these voters are not going to come out for him. Just plain and simple, especially with Nikki Haley.
People say that, but look at the actual results. Look at the actual election results. He's won year after year after year.
Yeah, no, except I said, except in the primaries, except in the primaries where he lost when he ran for president.
I'm talking about since he's been president
against much better candidates. This time around,
he was the best candidate. That's why he won.
This time around in 2020, he had better candidates drop out, and because they're like, you know what, Joe,
better candidates dropped out. They dropped out because they couldn't beat him.
Look, the truth of the matter is,
fair point. Fair point.
Whatever it is, I'm happy that he won in 2020 in a general election. I voted for the man. I'm not saying that you should not vote for Joe Biden if he's the head of the ticket in 2024. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is this, that if the DNC and the Democratic consultants know anything whatsoever and don't want a repeat of 2016, they need to get their act together and think about, like, what's happening.
This is not a special election, though, right? This is not the party leaders putting up a candidate.
They don't have anyone else.
Be able to,
no one needs
to be able to do it and put together a viable campaign.
Gretchen Whitmore
Kennedy, who is it?
Wait, who?
Why can't they do a Gretchen Whitmore ticket? Why can't they do a Gretchen Whitmore ticket? Why can't they?
Because it's not them. What do we say? There is no
Gretchen Whitmore ticket.
Wait, calm down. One at a time. One at a time.
A Gretchen Whitmore ticket.
There is no
what's it called? An Andy Bashir ticket, bro. Like, look, there are opportunities in terms of like building a candidate into what a presidential candidate is. Like, these are folks that are planning to run in 2020.
December 5th, 2023. What are you talking about? There are opportunities.
And I'm scared shitless. As a lifelong Democrat, I'm scared. It is December 2023. You are right, sir. I am scared. I do not think the kids are going to come out.
Why are you repeating Republican talking points, Andrey?
Please get me stop shaking it.
You know, and the fear, Mike, I can see the fear, because the fear, you look at Donald Trump, or everything that comes, it seems like the more that comes out for him, on him, the more his percentage rises.
I
mean,
don't think that's the reality.
He's a front leader. He's in the
Republican nomination, but the polls also show if he were to be convicted on any of the felony charges, he loses all of the swing states, right? It would be a landslide.
First off, that's what people are saying now. The amount of people who aren't saying shit in terms of like, I won't vote for him if he gets convicted. Wink.
Look, that happened. The actual election results, though, right? They swing further for the Democrats than what the polls show.
And by the way, he gets convicted. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was saying, across the Newburgh Beacon Bridge, somebody has this long banner. Don't blame me. I voted for Trump.
Right. Exactly. But they always voted for Trump.
So I'm just saying.
They were just a Trump person.
When I go ride down up here, when I ride here, it's Trump. It's like easing away from the Biden administration, and I can see the fear, because it's like, oh boy, what's going to happen?
I've got a friend who has 5 sons. Okay. I've got a friend who has 5 sons. You know what he said?
This is the Scala way of polling, by the way. This is why he's a supporter of Joe Biden. The 5 sons. Go ahead, tell the story about the 5 sons.
He says, "I can't miss. You want a son? I can't miss. I'll get you a son." Joe Biden reminds me.
By the way, he's literally quoting Denzel Washington from Training Day, which is what I do as well. So stop it. Let's like, yeah.
So you could use Denzel as well. Joe Biden reminds me of Denzel, or more particularly my friend Hamp, who has the 5 sons. He can't miss, right? People say, oh, he's old, he can't speak coherently, whatever they want to say, whatever these Republican talking points are. By the way, I watched the last debate between Trump and Biden back in 2020, and intellectually, Biden ran circles around him. So if that is the point that they're going to use, that's going to backfire on them, right? But Biden can't
ran circles against the dumbest president of all time. Like the guy from The Apprentice.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It's 45 years of public
the steak or the chicken, sir.
Managed to run circles.
You have to pick the steak or the chicken.
Oh my goodness.
It's the steak or the chicken, sir. So Biden can't seem to miss, right? Whatever people say about him.
What are you talking about? He misses constantly.
Like this, and it goes without him even looking.
Wait, hold on. I'm still trying to hear about the 5 sons. Go ahead, Mike. Let Mike get it out.
Yeah, so that's my point. It reminds me of my friend who says I can't seem to miss. Biden can't seem to miss. No matter what happens, he wins, right? The polls show, oh, Democrats are in trouble this year. He won in 20, he won in 21, he won in 22, he won in 23. The polls skew towards Republicans. The
Joe Biden was not on the ballot in 2022 or 2023.
Say what?
Biden was not on the ballot in 2022.
Biden has been the head of the Democratic Party
was
since
not on the
2020,
ballot
sir.
in 2022 or 2023.
Oh, yes, he was.
Was
yes,
not.
he was.
In fact,
guess what?
he
So
was
is Trump.
also
So is
His
Trump.
reputation
was
was
on the ballot in 2026. In
You
2000,
can't have it both ways, sir. You cannot have it both ways. If
when he was
Biden
actually
lose-
on a ballot. When
Yes,
he
if
was actually
Biden,
on a
if
ballot,
Biden were to
the
lose the
ballot
midterms,
matters.
listen to me. If Biden were to lose the midterms last year, what would you say? Biden lost. Biden lost. So if he
Biden,
wins, you
I
have
would
to
not
say he
say
won.
that. I would not. Why would
Everyone
I
would be
say
saying that.
Why would
his
I
his
say that?
his reputation,
I
his
know better.
administration,
He's the head
his
of the
record was
party.
on the ballot. Yeah.
He's the head of the party. People are voting under Biden or voting under Trump.
People were so scared of the new rash of MAGA extremists and stuff, they voted for Democrats. While Joe Biden's approval rating was still in the toilet, under
It's the chicken
50%.
or the steak, sir. It's
He
the
hasn't
chicken or
made
the steak.
above 40% this year.
The
What are you
vegan option
talking
is
about,
not on the
guys?
menu, sir.
Nothing.
Wait,
you've
why
said
are
has
vegans
made me
catching
less
strays
afraid.
here? What's
Nothing you've said has made me any way less afraid. And by the way, Donald Trump
Listen.
gets convicted. By the way, Donald Trump gets convicted. He makes a deal with the GOP and stuff, and says, "Hey, listen, Nikki, I'm going to give you all of my crazies and stuff. They're going to come out and vote for you now. You give me a pardon first day in office. Deal?
yeah.
Have
Yeah,
a good
I
day,
can see
Joe."
So you've been
Yeah.
watching a lot of conspiracy theories, it seems.
No, I believe that
No,
would probably.
I've been staying awake. You know what I mean? Drinking coffee,
Because
going
she's
crazy.
committed
Did
to
someone
Donald
tell you
Trump.
I
that? You
don't see
believe
the
Bernie
numbers.
should be the
But
I don't
president?
see how he wins.
But Mike,
You see
hold
how
on.
he
Now,
wins? You just came up with the most far-fetched scenario to explain how he could possibly lose.
Yeah,
No, I see him losing Michigan. I see him losing Ohio. I see him losing Georgia. I see him losing North and South Carolina. Like you tell
Nikki
me,
Haley, who's not going to be the nominee?
if
Right.
Nikki Haley's the nominee, he loses all those states.
We're not talking about, but what's more
Okay,
likely? Nikki
George.
Haley
Okay,
being nominated
okay,
or Nikki
Donald.
Haley not
Okay,
being
then
Wait,
look,
wait,
one second. Okay, and then if Donald Trump is the nominee, which is the more likely scenario, right? You have again the repeat of the dumbest, most disastrous possible scenario of like human, like in terms of like the status of our country, right? Like in terms of like us existing into the future. The plans that Donald Trump has for a second term are just insanely disastrous,
And
right?
why would people vote
And
for
the
that?
guy
Who
that's
said?
standing in front of it is Joseph Robinette Biden.
Who just
You
wins?
guys
Who
are
can't
all
miss.
comfortable
He
with
cannot
that.
seem to
You
miss,
guys
right?
are all don't think that this
When
is
you
just
think
a
of
coin
Biden, you
flip.
think of winning. He
That this is
always
just a
seems to
coin
win.
flip. That
He
him
always
just like
seems to win.
falling
He
off the
cannot miss
last
a
question.
layer of
I have a question.
Force One
He
and
cannot
like
miss a
taking a
shot.
hit and it's done.
He always
I have a
seems-
question, Andre.
Donald Trump will never
Andre,
debate Joe Biden ever again, by the way. He
I have a
becomes
question,
nominee or not,
Andre.
there won't be another debate.
We did a poll on this show, and people said that if candidates skip debates, they lose their vote.
I got a question,
Yeah, okay,
Andre.
because Donald
Okay.
Trump has a shot of winning New York anyways. Okay.
No.
It wasn't just New
Andre,
York.
can you spell Robinette?
Yes, I can. I'm assuming it's 1B, but it's ROBINETTE.
I have no idea. just
I
needed
thought
to
you were
look
checking
it up.
me.
You were looking it up, man.
I'm gonna look it up right now. It's
And
what did you
English is not
say?
your first language.
ROBINETTE.
You got it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's
All
it.
right. There you go. We
By
need
the
to
way,
break that up.
I probably spell his middle name better than he does right now. So like, let's all stop it.
Didn't you just say that Biden won in 20, 21, 22, and 23?
I did not. You said that.
Because
You said that.
you said he
You
won
said
all
that.
those years because
I didn't say he
people
won
were-
those years. He wasn't on the ballot in those years. I did
Yes, he
not say
was. That we've stipulated that he won these
you didn't
past.
stipulate shit. I didn't.
You're saying
stipulate
that the Republicans beat him these past 4 years,
it. I didn't. I said he wasn't on the ballot.
but he still won all the elections.
He didn't.
So
He
who won?
won one election in 2020. One.
No, that's not how this works.
Yes, it is.
Year after year, you just
You
said
win when
they
you're
voted
on the
for
ballot.
Biden and
When
the
you
Democrats.
when your name Joseph Robinette Biden is on the
You're not
ballot.
letting me even
That is
make my
how this
point.
works.
You said they voted for Joe Biden's Democrats, right?
I didn't say that. I didn't say they voted for Joe Biden's Democrats because not all of them are Joe Biden's Democrats, brother.
Joe
Because
Biden is the head of the party.
Are not where Joe Biden is politically.
He is the head of the party. You said they all voted for him because they were terrified of the MAGA Republicans,
in
right?
face of an existential threat. Yes. Listen, it was a vote for Hillary Clinton.
So there you go. But there you go. So you're saying that if Trump is on the ballot, these people who are terrified of the MAGA Republicans are going to vote for Trump?
I'm saying that he's losing enough constituencies and enough people are not going to come out to vote, period. I'm saying that they're not going to vote for, they're going to come out and vote for Donald Trump. I'm saying that he's losing enough Middle Eastern Americans, Muslim Americans, and young Americans right now. As it's happening, there's a siphoning off in terms of actual support for Joe Biden. I'm not saying they're going to come out and vote for Trump because they know that he's a piece of shit, but at the same time, they're not going to come out and vote for Joe Biden. They just won't. Because they have not really lived under a fascist totalitarian.
It's based on conspiracy theory.
No, I have to agree with that.
Your co-host is about to agree with me.
I think the younger people are, and I've made this point with you before. And this war with Israel and Palestine is not going to help anything at all because the younger people are going to move further away from that. And the more that Biden and U.S. supports that, it's gonna be detrimental to Biden, even though the Republicans are still on.
Because even when you
why would this happen next year, but didn't happen this year, and didn't happen the year before, it didn't happen the year before, it didn't happen the year before.
Bro, it's all about to be bad. So Ukraine is about to lose money. And by the way, I'm not sure if you guys are paying attention. Venezuela just wants to annex 2/3 of Guyana.
What?
Yeah, bro. They literally just voted for it, and it was like 95% support. So they're putting their military on the border.
Who's that?
Venezuela.
Venezuela.
They're going to try to invade Guyana?
They're going to try to annex 60% of Guyanese land.
What the heck?
Guyana just found oil off its coast. They're now the fourth. They have now the fourth highest amounts in terms of oil barrel capacity.
So check this out. Check this out. We talked about presidential history here last week. We did a little trivia. Is there something to the notion that Republicans tend to get elected only when things are going well in the country? Democrats are elected to clean up the mess that Republicans make.
But usually internal things, right? Democrats get elected to fix fiscal problems in the country, right? You know what I mean? Republicans statistically have always been more of a disaster for internal, like people just being able to make money. Yeah, in terms of the U.S. economy and stuff. And Democrats come in to fix it. Republicans blame Democrats for the state of things, despite the fact that they caused the problems, and they get reelected because the populace has a very short attention span and a very short memory.
Right. So then if history is any indication, the Republicans cannot win next year, right?
Yes. Having said that, with the border issues, with the war between Israel and Palestine, well, not Palestine, between Israel and Gaza, or rather with Hamas and Gaza, with just tremendous civilian casualties. I don't even know how to phrase this, but it's a war.
With Israel going on a war path of genocide. Just be straight up with it.
I don't utilize those terms because they have like legal distinctions and stuff. So I'm not going to exactly put it like that.
I'll put it that way.
I mean, look, it is what it is. There's 12,000 people dead in Gaza and stuff. There's no ways to put that outside of an atrocity. So, right. And look, I've talked for years about the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu is the worst thing that could happen for the state of Israel, for any potential 2-state or even 3-state solution, by the way. The potential of having a secular state, outside of a Muslim and Jewish state. But anyway, I think that the confluence of world events is not going to allow us to repeat history in the same way that it's happened in the past. There's too many outside foreign factors. There's too many outside influences. Plus, it's the time of social media, so everything is sped up as it is. Yeah. And honestly, we've never had a president this old in office as the head of a major party. It just has not happened in terms of our president. Like, it's not a thing. We don't know what's going to happen. We've also never had potential other, by the way, with the other party facing felonies, right? We've also never had that. Also, a televised trial that's supposed to start in March, but it will probably be delayed, right? You know, so look, I don't know what's going to happen. All I'm saying is that I'm scared shitless because I think we nominated the strongest candidate that we have.
Let's have some perspective here. This was a candidate who saved American democracy, right?
Yes, I'll grant you that.
Okay, so let's give some respect where it is due.
No problem. Also has done quite a number of very progressive and quite a decent amount of things. There are things that he is lacking on for sure, but at the same time, he had like an LBJ light kind of vibe to him for a little bit and stuff. Even though, he's had not necessarily a lot of missteps. He's also had a lot of people blocking the path. One of them being Tuberville, by the way, today, 400 military nominees just got their seats and stuff because he was blocking their nominations. Like,
well, whatever happened to Afghanistan? Has anybody has that ever come up anymore?
So my curiosity is
whatever happened with that.
My curiosity is what happened to the refugees. So you had 1.5 million refugees from Afghanistan who went into Pakistan, right? And then Pakistan has been trying to kick them out. So my curiosity is how that kind of, crisis of refugees is going to affect that region specifically, and how, we're going to have to play some sort of role. So I'm not sure about the timelines, but it's definitely worth looking into.
Speaking, we have to move on. But speaking of timelines, you did mention that in March the trials are set to begin. We don't know the exact days, but
I was talking about just specifically the Georgia trial.
Okay, but specifically, it just seems to me that the voters right now, based on all the polling that we've seen, have not really been paying attention to Trump's criminal trials, right? And maybe that's fair because they haven't really begun yet. It seems like the indictments haven't moved the needle much. They are saying if he is convicted, they would not vote for him. But the timeline of this, right? We're going to be looking at early to mid next year, this really coming to a head. I think it'll be too late for any of the Republican candidates to stop him, especially because on the Republican side, they seem to like this, right? To Sheba's point, they actually seem to like Trump being in legal trouble. So I think that's going to help him in the primaries. But if it all comes to a head by the middle to, towards the end of the year, that's certainly not good timing for him. And that will play into Democrats' hands going into the fall. So let's see.
So look, like I said, man, the other part of this too, though, is just the amount of dark money that's at play. And also the fact that Trump has to spend 50% of all the money that he's raising from his supporters on legal fees. I mean, look,
I think,
man, Nikki Haley's got a big war chest, man. I'm just saying.
Yeah. To your point, Mike, what you're saying and yours and Sheba's point, like that they seem to be liking this as far as Trump's legal trouble. And I think it's a little bit of a way of thinking. They're not looking at it as he's in legal trouble. They're looking at it as their guy is being persecuted. And and so that's what they're ramped up about. They're like,
that's right. That's the Republican.
And that's dangerous.
That's different from the general electorate who did not vote for him last time he ran. And and even really, if you look at the overall numbers, neither the first time. So let's keep some perspective on this. But we are about to wrap up. We did have a poll from last week. Want to go over the results?
Right. We had a poll from last week. We were looking into what was happening with what's his name, the Buffalo shooter, and he's possibly could still be facing the death penalty, even though New York doesn't have the death penalty. He could be facing it on federal charges. And so the question that we raised was, are there any crimes for which you believe the death penalty is the appropriate punishment? And we had quite a few responses. Again, for some reason, the poll function wasn't working here, but it seemed the majority of all of the responses here were no, that people were against the death penalty. Some called it state-sanctioned murder. People were saying they were opposed, that it isn't a punishment, it isn't deterrent, it's revenge. So the overwhelming majority was against it. I saw one or two. One said for war crimes, crimes against humanity, and treason only. But
Treason.
other, yeah, and people
Well, I
responded
mean,
to that saying not even those are
reasonable,
justifiable.
technically, legally is punishable by hanging still.
Yeah,
No, I mean, in terms of like the federal law and stuff.
right. So it seems pretty definitive that most people in this poll were against the death penalty.
Okay.
So, anyone here want to weigh in on their view?
I think it would make the show too long.
Yeah. I'll just say that it's interesting when people say treason. That would concern me, right? Because treason is something that I think could be politicized a little too much. It's a little ambiguous to say
Right.
that treason is always going to be punishable by death. That's close to saying that anyone we think is a political opponent and we want to call
Right.
treason should be killed.
I'm assuming
That's very dangerous.
Yeah, I'm assuming this is a military person that said this, and they were saying that in the context of becoming, a traitor for an opposing military force,
Like
in war and things of that sort, right? If we have open conflict, or somebody, let's say somebody like goes and works for like ISIS and shit and plots to kill Americans, right?
Okay. But what about, the Americans who have, they think that they're blowing the whistle, but not everybody is it in that context.
Right.
Someone like a Snowden.
Huh?
Someone like a Snowden.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, look, I have my own thoughts on Snowden in general and stuff. I was very happy, as you know, that Chelsea Manning got pardoned by President Obama. I think Edward Snowden is actually far more complicated. But
Right,
I think
for many,
but to your central point, yes, that is dangerous, sure.
yeah, because
go
ahead.
I was going to say, look, if you want like the synopsis of my like general thought on the death penalty and stuff, in my opinion, it should be up to the person that is facing the prison sentence. If they would rather, like be put to death and stuff by some sort of, in a kind of euthanasia way and stuff, that should be their right as a person who can decide what to do with their own body versus, living for a lifetime inside of captivity. Aside from that, that's it. Unless it is the person's own decision, I don't think the state has a right to put somebody to death. I think that says something wrong about us as a civilization if that is the case.
That is an interesting perspective, right? It's a form of euthanasia for the prisoner.
Well, look, I think
the right to suicide, basically.
Yes, I find that everybody should have the right to suicide first and foremost, and particularly in cases of debilitating diseases and things of that sort. But look, I think a person should have a right to do with their own body as soon as they have the maturity and capacity to make those decisions. But at the same time, I also think that the environments in our prisons need to change. I think that it's a drastic change that needs to occur. First, we need to federally make private prisons and for-profit prisons illegal. It is a ridiculous thing that is a thing that still happens in this country. It is so counterintuitive for rehabilitation.
Agreed.
But yeah, look, aside from that, I also think that you should let prisoners vote because people use them for, as prisoners, they're still part of the amount of money that you receive in terms of your districts, and they're counted as people there, but they're not counted in terms of voting.
I was going to ask you that. Should they vote where they're incarcerated?
Yes. Yep. You should set up voting booths inside of prisons. And look, as much as I find it abhorrent to find out the political views of rapists and child molesters and stuff, that's not for me to judge. It's not, look, and
it's an interesting take for me. I like the way New York does it, where once you are out of the system, you can get your rights back. I don't like, at least as a bare minimum, I don't like the idea that you're permanently disenfranchised upon a conviction.
Well,
sure.
I think,
but
I agree
those
with
pathways
that.
are also difficult as well.
Say that again.
Those pathways are difficult depending on state to state, right? Florida, technically, you can.
Well, that clemency is terrible, right? In Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But once you've done your sentence and you're off parole, you can go there automatically.
Everything's terrible in Florida.
But listen, look, man, like the amount of violence that we have inside of prisons and stuff, I think that would change very drastically and stuff if prisoners got the right to vote. And like, look, man, I wouldn't judge anybody who would rather take death than like having to be locked up for 25 years inside of like a horribly violent environment and stuff where people are dying from neglect, from abuse, from lack of medical services and everything else, from corruption. Look, it's a horrible thing and stuff. So like, if your choice is like, hey, here's a cell and stuff, and you're going to be treated horribly for like potentially all of your life, or, you know what I mean? Like some sort of opiate shot. Like, I don't know, man. I probably would take the latter personally, but
the thing is, those decisions are not reversible, and people could say things that they don't truly mean in a time of
but look, all decisions are reversible and stuff. That's a horrible idea.
Death isn't reversible.
Everything and stuff. Like, look, as soon as you are of you know, like a decent state of mind and stuff, you can make those decisions.
That's my personal belief. You're talking about people facing
belief.
life in prison or the death penalty or whatever. Are they
No, look, I get it. But
yeah,
again,
I think that there was another point here that we talked about last time, and a comment here that said that I thought was really good. They said the fact that innocent people will get executed makes the question you need to ask: is it right to kill innocent people in order to maintain the option of the death penalty?
No.
Right.
I agree.
I agree with that point as well.
Yes. So I think we could probably wrap up with that.
Yeah.
Should we? I think we still have to give the bottom line here, and I think Andrey's got a few things left to say. If we can get a brief bottom line from Andrey.
Listen, call your representatives, everybody and stuff, congressional representatives, especially if you have Republican ones. You know, Ukraine needs aid, and fuck Vladimir Putin over and over and over again until he's dead and rotting in hell. Also, by the way, Henry Kissinger, fuck that guy. So yeah, that's it. Peace and love.
It wouldn't be an Andrey appearance without their vulgarity. So there you go.
Yeah, but I mean, look, this time it was warranted. It was warranted. But still, I ended up with peace and love. Peace and love.
All right. Well, there you have it. Jay, where can people find us?
They can find us on YouTube at Nuance Show, also Instagram, also Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon for the podcast. Go there, subscribe. It gets automatically pushed to your devices. Go to the YouTube channel, jump on there, subscribe, comment, leave your thoughts as well. So, yes. And then of course, here every Tuesday. We are close to 100,000 views on the YouTube channel. We will do something to commemorate that. I would like some Nuance merchandise. If we can get a T-shirt that says "There is no they," I would rock the hell out of that, because we can't get today. They should. You got to be careful with that, though. If you do that, someone's going to look at it. It sounds like the gender thing, right? It's a pronoun thing, yeah. Okay. Well, I don't mean it in that context. I'm talking about this idea that there's a they pulling the strings out there. Like it was said earlier, they should find someone to run against Biden. Who is they, right? Someone needs to come up and do that if they can do it. There's no they making these decisions. Yeah, no, but what you're going to have... yourself, Mike. I understand perfectly well what you mean. No, but the customers would be... It'd be a lot of conservatives that would be buying that, and it would be... They'd be thinking something completely different. Like any great piece of art, it can mean perfect. It can mean different things to different people. What can I say? As always, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Andrey. Thank you, Sheba. Thank you, Jay. Thank you to everyone in the chat checking us out wherever you may find us. This is Nuance, and yes, we do have work to do. We'll catch you next time. Have a good night.